My name is Claire Whitmore. I'm 43, and I work as a county records clerk. At 8:10 on Tuesday morning, my sister pointed at Mom's obituary and said, "See, she didn't want your name on it." Her husband slid the cremation authorization toward me and added, "You have 2 hours to disappear quietly." I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just picked up Mom's unfinished quilt from the funeral home chair and folded one paper beneath it. By noon the next day, 17 people would watch a judge read one date aloud and my sister's hands would start shaking. This is that story. If that made your chest tighten, you understand what it means to have someone rewrite your place in a life you helped hold together. Please like, subscribe, and tell me where you're listening from and your local time. I read every comment. Now let me take you back to the morning this all started. The obituary was printed on cream paper with a thin gray border. Mom's photograph sat at the top, the one from her 72nd birthday. Her silver hair pinned back and one hand resting on the unfinished quilt in her lap. Beneath it were the names of people she had loved, taught, and sat beside through bad years. My name was nowhere on the page. The funeral director, Mr. Porter, looked from the obituary to me. "You said you're her daughter, I am." His eyes shifted toward Melissa. It lasted less than a second. But I saw it. County offices teach you to notice pauses. A pause usually means the paper and the person are telling different stories. Melissa pressed the folder against her ribs. She wore a navy dress and Mom's pearl earrings, the pair Mom had promised to leave to whichever daughter could still fasten the tiny clasps when her hands started shaking. Melissa had never helped with them. She touched one pearl and gave Mr. Porter a patient smile. "Claire has been distant for years," she said. Mom made her wishes very clear. Evan moved between me and the hallway leading to the viewing room. He did it casually, one hand in his pocket, as though he had simply chosen a better place to stand. The hallway was 6 feet wide. He filled most of it. Mr. Porter cleared his throat. "Mrs. Crane provided the obituary text yesterday afternoon. She also signed the authorization packet as acting personal representative, acting under what document I asked." Melissa removed the cremation authorization but kept the other pages hidden. "You don't need to audit this place. Claire. Mom died. For once. Try not to make everything about paperwork." That was how Melissa did it. She held the document, then accused me of caring too much about documents. She kept the key, then called me difficult for asking what it opened. I reached for one of the printed obituaries. Melissa's hand came down over the stack. "Those are for guests. I'm a guest now." Her fingers stayed flat on the paper. Evan laughed behind me. "Sign the authorization," he said. "Then maybe Mr. Porter will let you say goodbye." Mr. Porter looked down at his desk. His wedding ring turned once around his finger. I did not ask Evan to move. I took out my phone, opened a blank note, and typed the time, 8:13. Then I entered Mr. Porter's full name and the sentence he had just given me. Melissa Crane supplied obituary text yesterday afternoon and signed as acting personal representative. Melissa watched my thumb move. "What are you doing?" "Keeping the record straight." Her mouth tightened. Mr. Porter pulled one obituary from beneath Melissa's hand and placed it on the far side of his desk. "Ms. Whitmore is entitled to a copy." Melissa turned toward him. "She is not listed. That does not change what she may take from this room." It was one sheet of paper. But he had said my name without lowering his voice, and Melissa had not stopped him. I folded the obituary once and slipped it beneath Mom's quilt. One square near the corner remained unfinished, its edges pinned but never stitched. My hand stayed there for a moment. Then I closed the quilt over the paper. "Now the authorization," Evan said. "I won't sign what I haven't read." "You saw enough." "I saw one page." Melissa hugged the folder closer, the bottom corner bent against her dress. A bright yellow signature tab showed inside, beside a page number. Page 7 of 9. "What's on page 9?" I asked. She slid the folder behind her hip. "That is none of your business." "Mr. Porter stood. "We need to slow this down." "No," Evan said. "We don't." He stepped farther into the hallway and looked toward the receptionist near the chapel doors. "Do not allow Claire Whitmore into the identification room. Mrs. Crane is the only authorized person." The receptionist's hand stopped above her keyboard. She looked at me, then at Mr. Porter. He did not correct Evan. That was the price of the obituary in my purse. I had one sheet and one name for the record. Melissa still had the folder, the hallway, and the room where my mother waited behind a locked door. As they walked toward the chapel, the hidden page flashed once beneath Melissa's arm, a hospital logo, a date, and one line in bold type: "Visitor restriction order." The words stayed with me after Melissa disappeared into the chapel. Visitor restriction order. I had spent 19 years at the county records office watching people trust the bold line at the top of a page and ignore everything underneath it. A title could say transfer, release, authorization, final notice. None of those words mattered until you checked who filed it, when it entered the system, and whether the signer still had authority. I carried Mom's quilt to a row of chairs beside the funeral home office. The cotton smelled faintly of lavender starch. Melissa had probably taken it from the cedar chest because it looked good beside the framed photograph. She had always liked finished things: the church program after I chose the hymns, the birthday cake after I drove Mom to the bakery, the clean kitchen after I scrubbed it. The quilt was different. Mom had left one square open near the lower corner. 4 brass pins held pale blue fabric in place, but no thread crossed the edges. "You're staring at it like it can testify," a woman said. The receptionist stood beside me with a paper cup of water. Her name tag read, Lorna Bell. My mother and I were supposed to finish this square together. Lorna held out the cup. "Mrs. Crane told us the quilt was complete. She says that about anything she didn't help build." Lorna glanced toward the chapel doors. "Mr. Porter wants to speak with you." I folded the loose square inward so the pins would not catch my sleeve and followed her into his office. "Mr. Porter had removed his jacket. 9 numbered pages lay across his desk. Melissa's signature appeared on 3. Evan's appeared as witness on 2. The last page was turned face down. "I need to be careful," he said. "Mrs. Crane is listed as acting personal representative." Listed by whom? She provided a copy of a petition and a hospital restriction notice, not an appointment order. His hand stopped over the file. "That is one of the things I am verifying." I placed the quilt on my lap. "Did my mother sign any instruction asking that I be excluded from the obituary, viewing, or disposition arrangements, Mr.?" Porter turned each page and checked every signature block. His index finger moved line by line. "No," he said. "There is no direct instruction here carrying your mother's signature." The air vent hummed above us. I opened the note I had started at 8:13. "Can you repeat that he did?" I typed every word. "For years." Mom had called me before appointments because she knew I kept copies. I carried a blue accordion folder to cardiology, orthopedics, the pharmacy, and the county benefits office. When a specialist changed a dosage, I wrote the date on the old bottle. When an insurance clerk said a form had never arrived, I gave her the certified mail number and the name of the person who signed for it. Melissa called that controlling. Then she called me whenever Mom's reimbursement was late. Mr. Porter turned the final page face up. It was the hospital visitor restriction order I had glimpsed beneath Melissa's arm. The copy was poor. The top right corner had been cut off, taking part of the entry stamp with it. May I see that I can let you view it? I cannot release a copy without authorization. I leaned forward. The patient name was correct. The restriction named me specifically. The requester field said, Family Representative. The signature line held a loose mark that could have belonged to anyone. The entry date was hidden. Where is the original Mrs. Crane said the hospital sent this copy to her. Who requested it? The document does not say. Who entered it? That field is outside the copied area. The page looked official enough to close a door. It did not look complete enough to explain why. Mr. Porter lowered his voice. I understand your concern, but I cannot postpone a scheduled cremation because one relative disputes another relative's account. What would you need a court order, or a legally controlling instruction that creates a direct conflict? The chapel organ began behind the wall. People were taking their seats for a service whose printed program did not contain my name. Mr. Porter closed the file. I can give you 10 minutes before the remarks begin. And after that, preparation continues. I looked down at the quilt. One square still waited for a hand that would never return to it. Then I looked at the cut corner of the hospital order. Somebody had removed the only part I needed most. I carried the quilt back into the hallway and checked the clock above the chapel doors. 8:26. The cremation authorization on Mr. Porter's desk listed 10:30 as the scheduled transfer time. There was no public viewing, no receiving line, no final hour for relatives to arrive, just a 40-minute memorial, then a locked vehicle waiting behind the building. Melissa stood near the chapel entrance greeting guests as if she had planned a charity luncheon. Every few minutes, her eyes moved to the clock. At 8:28, she checked her watch. At 8:31, she checked it again. I walked toward her. Evan stepped away from the wall before I reached them. Show me the complete hospital order, I said. Melissa's smile remained in place for the couple standing beside her. This is not the time. You made it the time. The couple looked down at their programs and moved into the chapel. Melissa waited until they were gone. Then she opened the folder just enough to pull out the cropped copy. She held it by the top edge, keeping it beyond my reach. Mom asked the nurses to keep you away. She said, she was tired of your questions, your folders, your constant need to control every detail. When did she ask? The week before she died. What day? Melissa's thumb pressed over the missing corner. I wasn't taking minutes. Evan leaned closer. She was dying. Claire. Not appearing before one of your county committees. What time did the hospital enter the order? Listen to yourself, he said. This is exactly why she didn't want you there. Melissa placed the page back inside her folder. You have the obituary. You had your little conversation with Mr. Porter? Now sign the authorization and stop delaying Mom's piece. The chapel doors opened. Lorna stood there holding a stack of programs. Mrs. Crane, she said. Mr. Porter needs your confirmation on the transfer schedule. Melissa looked at the clock again. 10:30, she said. Nothing changes. Lorna's gaze moved to me before she returned inside. I stepped away from Melissa and called the county probate division. The first automated message told me the office opened at 8:30. The second told me emergency matters involving disposition of remains required the clerk on duty. I pressed 3 and listened to the line ring. A woman answered on the 5th ring. Probate emergency desk. This is Angela Ruiz. I gave her my name, Mom's full legal name, the funeral home, and the scheduled cremation time. Are you the appointed personal representative? She asked. No. My sister says she is acting in that role, but the funeral home has not shown me an appointment order. Do you have a written disposition directive? I have reason to believe one exists. The funeral home does not have the original. My sister is relying on a hospital visitor restriction with the entry information cut off. Angela stopped typing for a moment. Are you alleging document fraud? I am saying the document being used is incomplete, and the action scheduled for 10:30 cannot be undone. That answer mattered. Accusations made people defend themselves. Facts made them check the clock. Angela gave me the name of the duty judge and directed me to an online emergency petition. I could request a temporary hold preserving the remains until the court reviewed who had lawful authority. It would not decide the dispute. It would not restore my name. It would only stop the clock. What do I need to attach a sworn statement explaining the immediate harm, your relationship to the deceased, your attempts to obtain the controlling documents, and the dates you were denied access? My hand tightened around the phone. The dates I was denied access, all of them that you can document. I looked through the chapel doors. Mom's photograph stood beside 2 white candles. Melissa had placed herself in the front pew. The seat next to her held her purse. For the petition to work, I would have to write down every unanswered call, every hospital visit where security met me in the lobby. Every afternoon, I sat in my car across from the entrance because Melissa had told the nurses I caused Mom distress. Those details would become a public filing. Melissa's lawyer would read them. Evan would read them. Strangers in the courthouse could request them. What is the filing fee? I asked. $186. Submit before 9:15 if you want the duty judge to see it before the transfer. It was 8:38. I thanked her and ended the call. Then I opened the county filing portal on my phone. The first field asked for the petitioner's relationship to the deceased. Daughter. I typed the word Melissa had removed from the obituary. Across the hallway. She checked her watch again. Evan whispered something into her ear. Both of them looked at me. I sat beneath the funeral home clock, spread Mom's quilt across my knees, and began listing every day they had kept me outside. The petition took 31 minutes. At 9:09, I signed the declaration with my fingertip. 6 unanswered calls, 3 visits to the hospital lobby, 1 security incident report. Every line turned another private wound into public evidence. The filing fee cleared at 9:12. $186 left my account, and a confirmation number appeared beneath the county seal. I wrote it on the back of the obituary. Through the chapel doors, Melissa's voice carried from the podium. Mom believed in keeping people close. I sat beneath the clock with the unfinished quilt across my knees and listened to the woman who had kept me outside a hospital room speak about loyalty. At 9:27, Angela Ruiz from the probate desk called. The judge needs written confirmation of the transfer time. I found Mr. Porter near the rear doors. The court needs the cremation schedule sent directly from your office. His eyes moved to the clock. 9:31. Melissa saw us leave together. Her voice stumbled, then recovered. Mr. Porter scanned the authorization page. The transfer was scheduled for 10:30. No public viewing. No final hour for relatives to arrive. He emailed it to the court at 9:34. Evan entered without knocking. What did you send? A document requested by the probate court. Mr. Porter said. Evan turned to me. Withdraw it. I folded the quilt once. No. At 9:42, Mr. Porter's printer started. He read the first page, then placed it on the desk. The court has issued a temporary preservation hold. The cremation is suspended until an emergency hearing tomorrow at noon. Melissa's memorial speech slipped from her hand. The pages scattered across the carpet. I already signed the authorization. The court has not ruled on who has legal authority, Mr. Porter said. Until then, the remains and every disposition record will be sealed. He called the crematory and canceled the vehicle. No one had restored my name. No one had declared Melissa dishonest. But the clock had stopped. Then my phone vibrated. The doorbell camera at Mom's house showed Melissa beside a locksmith. Evan held a new brass deadbolt while the old one lay on the porch. "The code is compromised," Melissa told him. "Change everything." The drill bit into Mom's front door. Mr. Porter slid a cost notice toward me. If the judge denied my petition, I would owe every dollar of refrigerated preservation. I signed it. I had stopped the cremation. Melissa had locked me out of everything that might prove why she wanted it done so fast. Melissa had locked me out of Mom's house, but she could not lock me out of every record connected to her name. I watched the doorbell feed until the locksmith carried away the old deadbolt. Then I closed the app. I did not call Melissa. I did not send a message she could twist. I opened my laptop and typed 3 headings: capacity, visitor access, restriction order. As a county records clerk, I knew an official-looking page meant nothing without its source. I needed the exact time Mom had been declared unable to make decisions. I needed the hospital visitor log. Most of all, I needed the electronic audit trail showing who entered the order that kept me outside. Mr. Porter placed the sealed funeral home file inside a locked cabinet. 10:29, I said. He looked at the clock. What? The time you sealed it. He wrote it on the evidence label. A receptionist named Lorna set a cup of coffee beside me. Melissa told everyone you hadn't spoken to your mother in 8 months. I opened my phone. Mom's last completed call had lasted 6 minutes and 48 seconds. 11 days before she died. Keep that, Lorna whispered before walking away. By 11:15, I had listed every record and the person authorized to certify it. I called the probate desk and requested narrow subpoenas through the court. I never touched the county systems available through my job. One unauthorized search would give Melissa exactly the distraction she needed. The clerk asked whether I had an attorney. Not yet. You need one. The third lawyer I called was Naomi Brooks. She listened to my dates, then quoted an emergency fee of $4,800. I opened the savings account marked roof replacement. Rain had already left a dark stain above my bedroom window. I transferred the first $2,400. Then Naomi asked the question that mattered. Which record do you want first? The one that proves whether Mom could still speak for herself when they started speaking for her. Naomi's office had 2 monitors, 1 legal pad, and no wasted words. Give me the timeline, she said. I opened my phone. Mom's last call lasted 6 minutes and 48 seconds. The next morning, Melissa canceled Mom's cardiology appointment. 2 days later, hospital security stopped me in the lobby. Naomi typed each date. Then an email arrived from Evan's attorney. His sworn affidavit said I had chosen to stay away. He claimed Melissa begged me to visit. On page 4, he wrote that I never entered the hospital during Mom's final month. I opened my saved receipts: a parking charge, a lobby coffee purchase, a visitor badge stamped March 8th at 8:57 in the morning. Evan's affidavit placed him in the lobby at 9:30. Watching me refuse to enter, Naomi circled the sentence. This does not prove everything, she said, but it gives us a place to start. Together, we requested the hospital's capacity assessment, visitor logs, security records, and electronic audit trail. I found where each record should exist. Naomi wrote the language that forced the hospital to preserve it. At 1:22, the court approved the subpoenas. Then Naomi slid my own affidavit toward me. It listed every unanswered call, rejected visit, and message I had sent. Melissa would receive the entire file. I signed anyway. By 8 the next morning, the hospital would tell us whether Mom had still been able to speak when Melissa began speaking for her.